Today we're going to cover some photography advice that will make you worse. And to be clear, this is advice to avoid and not follow because it'll make you, in my opinion, a bad photographer. The reason why we're doing this exercise is to help us understand photography from a backwards perspective. And don't worry, at the end we'll flip everything on its head and invert it, and everything will make sense. So let's do it. Here are 6 steps that will make you a bad photographer, aka photography advice that will make you worse. Step 1. Never take photos. If you want to be a bad photographer, a surefire way to get there is to never take photos. After all, who needs to go out and take photos when I can just watch someone do it for me? And it sounds simple because it is. If I went outside every day and took photos, the likelihood that I'd improve my photography is pretty high. After all, if I took 1,000 photos, I'm bound to get at least one good one. And if I do that over and over the course of many years, I'll eventually compile enough photos to create quality work with. I'll also learn a ton about photography with every photo session. New lessons to take and apply to make my photos better. Furthermore, the opportunity for special moments increases the more often you go out. During the latter half of 2022 and the entirety of 2023, I spent a lot of time chasing sunsets. Some days I went outside and the days were meh. Other days I'd run into captivating, epic, and unreal sunsets that led me to taking some of my favorite photos. Shots like Storm, Horizon, and Tempest Cityscape were all photos I captured simply because I went outside and took photos. And these eventually became prints that I could sell to people who are interested in my work. Furthermore, many of these images became the foundation for my latest photography zine, The Sinking Sun. Are you seeing the bigger picture now? All of this happened because I went outside and took photos. It's that bloody simple. But of course, I don't want to do that. Remember, I'm trying to become a bad photographer. Meaning I shouldn't go out and take photos and only watch photography content. Otherwise, I'll actually start to improve, get better, and bigger things will start happening for me. And we can't have that. Step 2. Buy all the expensive gear and never use it. If you want to become worse at photography, there is one thing you should focus on, and that is gear. After all, photography is about the gear and not the photos, right? So here's something to try. Spend all your time working at that 9 to 5 saving up for that new camera or lens. And whenever something eye-catching comes out, dump all your savings on that new gear. Because that new Fuji or Sony has all the fancy bells and whistles and is totally worth it. And let's not talk about how you never used the previous version of that camera in the first place. You watched a few reviews of your favorite creators talking about how that camera changed their life, and that was all the convincing you needed. And although you never used that camera, you have a pretty good feeling you'll use this one. Alright, so now that you have this new gear at the expense of your life savings, what should you do? Well, if we actually went outside and started using it, we actually might start improving and start getting our money's worth, and we don't want to do that. So let's just leave it on this shelf over here. This can be our new fancy paperweight, and then we can start saving for the next camera. How exciting. Step 3. Talk about it instead of be about it. Here's a good one. If I wanted to be a bad photographer, I definitely do this. I talk more about photography than I do photography. Because if there's anything I've understood over the years, it's that being a photographer is cool. You'd go to a party or something, talk to a few people, and tell them about your hobbies. And when you say you do anything creative, whether it's photography, art, or music, people's eyes light up. They'll begin to find you interesting, different, unique, and you'll begin to have more depth than the average Joe who has no hobbies. But in talking about it, you become gratified. You begin to feel good about yourself and your ego gets bigger. You'll talk about how you have this great trip planned, projects you want to work on, and how interested and invested you are in the art. Which is a little comical because I kind of feel like I'm talking about myself here. But here's the key. Now that you've talked about it and gotten rewarded for your interests, you can't do anything about it. You can't go on the trips, take the photos, make the book, because then you'd actually be who you say you are. And you'd be taking actual steps to becoming a better photographer. But remember, we don't want to become a good photographer. We want to be a bad one. Meaning, we'll talk about it, but never be about it, because who's going to hold us accountable anyways? Step 4. Never learn from others. A lot of artists are actually pretty good at this one. If you want to remain stagnant, the best way to do so is to never learn from others. After all, your way is the best way, right? All these other photographers may be doing something right over there, but your way is better, so what's the point in learning from them? Plus, if we begin compiling knowledge from all these other creators, what worked for them, and applied it to our own creativity, we might actually start getting better at an exponential rate, especially if we were already actively putting the work in. But why should we? Why should we go flip through that new photo book? It probably sucks anyways. Why should we listen to this podcast? These people probably don't know what they're talking about. I'd rather just do what I think works because my way is the best way, even if learning from others could potentially make me better. This is how I feel many creatives think. They're stuck in their own minds and their own processes and ways of doing things that they never look outside of themselves to look at how to improve and how they could actually be better. It may be from feeling insecure from that comparison with someone better than them. Or it may be trying to protect what little thing they're proud of. I've certainly found myself doing this before, and it's a surefire way to keep you stuck in old practices, bad habits, and make you a worse creator. But the moment I embraced learning from others, regardless of skill level, regardless of genre, I found myself getting better in all aspects of life, not just photography. Step 5. Only focus on art and nothing else in life. I find that there are two kinds of artists. Ones who love the craft and are really into it but don't take it that seriously. And others who are so deeply into the craft that it's basically their life. With the latter comes a deeper commitment, more effort, and arguably better work overall. But it comes at a big cost. That cost being the sacrifice of everything else in their life to pursue art. And in my opinion, this is a path that will lead to misery. Because obviously there are many examples of artists who become wildly successful at the expense of everything else in their lives. But there are also many examples of many artists who've become wildly successful without sacrificing all these things in their lives. So I don't think sacrifice is suited for everyone, and I also don't think it's necessary. And I myself have been tempted to toss away everything and just focus on the craft. But I learned from experience that you can improve at the craft and still live a pretty good life. Furthermore, as I improved my life and actually got my shit together, my photography improved as well. When you improve your sleep, diet, physical exercise, relationships, etc., your capacity to do more and better work actually increases. And you'll just be a happier person overall. So if you want to be a bad photographer, focus on the craft and nothing else in life. Let everything else crumble at the expense of your art, and you'll quickly realize the tax you have to pay, the misery it induces, and the worse it makes your art. Step 6. Never challenge yourself. The final way to make your photography worse is to never challenge yourself with a bigger project. I found that the greatest moments of growth for me have been in the creation of projects that felt just outside my skill level. This was especially true when making a project like my recent photo book, The Sinking Sun. The taking, planning, and building of this project took a whole year and a half or more. And it's personal projects like these that challenge me, push me to think smarter and work harder and just become better overall. And this is something I didn't really understand earlier on in my photography journey. Of course, I wanted to make zines and photo books, but I didn't really view them as growth vehicles. I didn't realize the potential they had for improvement, even though I was basically doing the same thing by making weekly YouTube videos. It's simple. You give yourself a task, any topic you're interested in, big or small, and you spend the next few weeks or months working on it until it's finished. And for this period of time, your entire creative direction revolves around completing this project. And as you build this thing, you'll be forced to take photos in a way that makes this thing work, which will have you stepping outside of your comfort zone and skill level into an area that makes you uncomfortable. And that discomfort will lead you to growth. Because once you actually do finish the project and complete what you set out to do, there will be countless of hidden skills that you've learned in the process of doing this thing. It's active learning with a purpose and through experience. And doing these things have granted me the most growth in my creative journey. This could range anywhere from photo books like The Sinking Sun to smaller YouTube videos, etc. But again, if you want to be bad in photography, this is definitely something you should avoid. Don't ever challenge yourself with a personal project. Stay in your comfort zone and never push yourself to make something bigger. Alright, we got through the 6 steps. Let's sum this up and then invert it because that's where the magic happens. Follow these 6 steps and your photography for sure will get worse. 1. Never take photos. If you actually went outside and took photos, you might start getting better. 2. Buy all the expensive gear and never use it. If we actually started using our cameras, we'd get our money's worth, and we don't want to do that. 3. Talk about it instead of be about it. More talk, less work is a surefire way to never improving. Besides, if we actually started doing the things we said we'd do, like making a photo book or going on that trip, people might actually start taking us seriously. How crazy would that be? 4. Never learn from others. Because there's no point, right? Our way is the best way, and therefore we'll never learn from others and never improve. 5. Focus on art and ignore everything else in life. Health, relationships, diet, etc. All those things are stupid and won't help our creativity. So let's just ignore those things and regret it later on in life. 6. Never challenge yourself with a harder project. We like to stay in this comfort zone and take the pictures we're used to taking that we know look good. And who wants to actually suffer and make something hard? Not me, because I like where I'm at and I don't want to get better. Alright, now that we know the 6 steps to making our photography worse, let's invert it and go over the 6 steps to making our photography better. If you want to improve and get better in photography, follow these 6 steps. 1. Go out and take some photos. We learn from experience. Meaning, we could watch all the photography content and tutorials in the world, but if we never actually go outside and apply it, we never actually get better. However, if we just implement a little photo session every now and then into our lives, we will make progress. 2. Don't buy gear you won't use, especially the expensive ones. Most of us don't need the latest and greatest. And even if we can afford it, if we're not going to use it, it just becomes a waste of space and waste of money. Sometimes, having more stuff can actually be a detriment and places a weight on our mental storage. Instead, buy only the gear you do use, sell the stuff you don't use, and focus on photography. 3. Be about it instead of talk about it. Talking about your hobbies can be fun. And I'm not saying to not share with others what interests you. I'm saying that if you're going to talk about how much you like photography, have all these trips planned, how interested and invested you are, make sure you actually do it. Actually, make sure you do it, but 5 times more than you talk about it. Because what's interesting is that the more that you talk about doing something, the less likely you are to actually do it. There's a great quote from Ryan Holiday that emphasizes this. Doing something and talking about it fight for the same resources. So don't be fooled. It may feel good in the short term, but can actually cost you a lot of progress in the long term. 4. Learn from others. The biggest shift you can give yourself as a creative person is to start learning from others. You might not want to because you think your way is the best way and you're afraid of change, but don't think about it that way. It's not change, it's an upgrade. Because imagine if some other photographer had a way of taking photos or doing things that was the exact thing you were looking for that filled that missing gap in your photography. And it's exactly what you've been trying to figure out but haven't been able to do. And so simply by learning from others, you can close this gap in your art and also other areas in life. And you don't have to make the mistakes and learn the lessons to actually start implementing the tools and making your life better for it. So why not just save ourselves time, struggle, and hardship simply by learning from other people? 5. Do your art, but don't ignore everything else in life. This one is very important. Art does not require sacrificing everything else in life. And I'd argue if you improve your life as a whole, your art actually gets better. You'll be more energized, happy, and creative. And in my opinion, this is one of the best creative hacks you can find. Because art itself, whether that be painting, music, or photography, draws inspiration from life. So in my opinion, the better your life, the better your art. 6. Challenge yourself with a harder project. If you feel stagnant or bored with your photography, you've forgotten something important. Chances are you learned all these new things as a beginner, but you've now reached a level where you stop challenging yourself. You're technically ready for that next level, but you haven't moved to that next level because you're either scared, you're comfortable being where you are right now, or maybe you simply didn't know. But if you want to get better or reinvigorate your passion for photography, you need to give yourself a personal project worth doing. I certainly did that when I built the Sinking Sun, and it's not only what rekindled my passion for photography, but also made me better for it. So those were the 6 steps to make our photography worse and 6 steps to make our photography better. If you found this helpful, please do share this with a friend. If you want to learn more, join the newsletter down below. If you want to buy my latest book, check out The Sinking Sun. And if you haven't gotten one yet, you can grab a free 4x6 print in the link down below. Thanks for watching as always. Have a great day. Peace.